Excellency Dr. William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces. Excellency Denis Francis, President of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Excellency Paula Narvaez, President of the United Nations Economic and Social Council. Excellency Mrs. Inga Anderson, Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Programme. Dear Heads of States, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 6th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly, hosted in Nairobi, the home of the United Nations Environment Programme for over 50 years. Marhaba, bienvenue, welcome, bienvenido, and karibu. Another Swahili word that I learned during my visit to the Karura forest to plant trees, thanks to the exceptional leadership of President Dr. William Ruto and First Lady Rachel Ruto on environment and ecosystem restoration, is mazingira. Which means environment. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we take great pride in the progress made on the global environmental agenda, but we know that we are fast approaching the point of no return, where human progress is at risk. In many areas of the world, the point of no return was already reached. 3.2 billion people, or 40% of the world's population, is suffering from ecosystem degradation, requiring immediate action. We are here to ensure that multilateralism is strengthened to deliver solutions critical to tackling the planetary environmental crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, and their side effects of desertification, ecosystem degradation, and drought. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, let me say a few words about environmental multilateralism. In 2024, we have many reasons to be distracted by our mission of putting the world on a sustainable development path, since we are all facing 3 inflection points wherever we live. In 2024, there are at least 2 major armed conflicts in Europe and the Middle East, with devastating effects and global geopolitical, economic, and social implications that are felt in every part of the world. That is inflection point number 1. The second inflection point that might be distracting us as politicians and as policymakers is that 40% of the world's population might be electing or is electing its leaders this year. Leaders that might change or even reverse sustainability policies and achievements. And Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the third inflection point in 2024 is that the multilateral system is under unprecedented pressure, to say the least. That is why UNEA-6, the highest level multilateral decision-making body on environmental issues, gathering in 2024 in Nairobi, Kenya, is critical. We are here at UNEA-6 to consolidate the achievements of our predecessors and to stay focused on our mission. We are here because we firmly believe in multilateral cooperation and international solidarity. My deep appreciation to UNEP for supporting member states and helping us stay focused on our mission at this critical time. My most sincere appreciation to UNEP Executive Director, Mrs. Inga Anderson, and her team for their unwavering commitment to steer global efforts to strengthen the environmental pillar of Sustainable Development Goals. And my sincere appreciations to UNON DG Zainab Bangura and her staff for all the logistical and security services 24/7. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, yes, the multilateral system is under unprecedented pressure. And yes, we can rise to the challenge and deliver. His Majesty, King Mohammed VI, in his message to COP28 Dubai, emphasized this urgency. Quoting, quote, "The IMF World Bank annual meetings held in Marrakesh concluded that there was a pressing need to reform multilateralism and development financing. Two levers humanity came up with to meet the challenges of the 20th century, two levers in which we believe. It is that conviction which is motivating my country as President of the United Nations Environment Assembly." Unquote, end of His Majesty's statement. This assembly focuses on addressing threats to species and ecosystems, and threats to our air, our soil, our waters. This assembly is about committing to decisive actions and credible solutions. In 2024, we have no choice but to act faster and with greater ambition. Environmental threats are disproportionately affecting some communities more than others. Science tells us that impacts we are facing are worsening. Last year was the hottest on record. Catastrophic events like raging storms, terrible droughts, devastating wildfires are becoming the new normals. But we have the solutions in nature, in our nature, in our technologies, in innovations, in finance. And we know what is possible when we come together armed with ambition, with an open mind, and with unity. Because multilateralism works. One great example is the negotiations underway on the global treaty to end plastic pollution. This was a key outcome of the previous assembly that is only possible to implement if we stop the blame game and the finger pointing. We have the opportunity to leave our mark this year too, in committing to ambitious actions on a range of environmental challenges. We must drive inclusive and multilateral action and focus on our energy on key and credible solutions. And the good news is that we have examples from around the world that we can emulate, from governments, from enterprises, from youth, civil society, local communities, that we can use to protect environmental health, to protect human health, and to protect human lives. We are convinced that the promise of revamping environmental multilateralism during this UN decade of ecosystem restoration cannot be delivered without a coordinated effort between the UN system and the most driven, the most enlightened leadership from the private and public sectors with cutting-edge technologies, investments in R&D, innovative funding expertise, and with sustainable engagement with local communities. That is why I've taken the initiative to put together a group of like-minded, purpose-driven leaders who share the personal sense of urgency to advance environmental multilateralism and to align financial flows with science and sustainability. These leaders pledge to coordinate with the UN system to build a better engagement from industry, and I've addressed a letter to His Excellency UN Secretary General so this group could form the Alliance of Goodwill Environmentalists and could possibly act as a much-needed support for upcoming UNEA-6 presidencies, including from the Global South. Excellencies, dear colleagues, as President of this Assembly, my vision is to scale up efforts to overcome our challenges. We must pragmatically look at what we know works and scale that up faster and better. We must nurture what unites us and build on the synergies between the different multilateral environmental agreements and other multilateral agencies. But I also believe, given the fast pace of innovation, that we must stay curious regarding solutions that are yet to be proven, so that we can take, as policymakers, informed and science-based decisions at the right time. Action, credibility, and implementation at all levels is the only way for the resolutions adopted by this Assembly to help us to build the roadmap we want for the environment and sustainable development. In the draft ministerial declaration, we agreed as member states to take ambitious action to achieve climate-resilient development and protect our communities against disasters exacerbated by the triple planetary crisis. We are on the verge of agreeing, Excellencies and dear colleagues, to elevate action to tackle all forms of pollution. We need greater cooperation to ensure a just and sustainable energy transition, an energy secure future for all, while respecting local and national needs, including when it comes to inflation, poverty, and debt sustainability. And we must deploy greater efforts to enhance sustainable mining, incorporate land degradation, desertification, and drought into disaster risk management, and also to achieve gender equality and to empower youth and children, because after all, we are doing this for them. And let's ensure that our actions will be truly and credibly leaving no one behind. Excellencies, dear colleagues, it is my hope that this Environment Assembly will demonstrate that challenges are best addressed when the community of nations and citizens of the world join forces with an open mind. Our efforts today will be crucial to secure our world for the benefit of our people and our planet. To conclude, Excellencies and dear colleagues, I continue to count on your commitment and look forward to working with you in this United Nations Environment Assembly to deliver on the expectations of the international community and the expectations of our people. Thank you very much. It is now my honor to invite His Excellency Denise Francis, President of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly, to address